Welcome, welcome. We're excited to be here today. You know, it's the time of year, it gets busy, but mostly it's time of year for, I think, a lot of reflection. And we have an opportunity to sew and do a sew along for children who are less fortunate than we are. We call it Toys for Tots. We donate directly 100% to Toys for Tots. And I think it's just a really good time. It's a time that we stop worrying about ourselves. We stop worrying about, our own situation, and we really turn our focus to others. And that's what we're going to do today. So I had some requests for the sew. And actually, I knew when I was creating the pattern that I remember thinking to myself, that's a beautiful blouse. That's going to need a sew along. And it's not a matter of how well the directions are done or anything. I think we just get used to visually learning, and we're just better at visually learning. That's really all it is. So we're here to help you visually learn today. This blouse, I know many of you have it because we've sold quite a few copies. 723 Balenciaga. Balenciaga is a designer out of Spain. When we go to Barcelona, we're going to do a little bit of historic research on Mr. Balenciaga and his rise to be one of the largest designers in the world. So it's pretty exciting. It is very exciting, his little blouse that we're doing. I want to take a look at this blouse and realize I fell in love with it at first glance, partly because of its asymmetric, partly because this little collar is just coming out of nowhere. It's just literally coming out of these soft gathers, and then of course it goes around the neck. It has a little slit in the back. We're going to do that, and it's just a beautiful little blouse. So I've done a couple different renditions here. These fabrics are all sold out. The fabric I have on is 6876. It's a wool blend. I just loved it. I loved it from the minute I ordered it, from the minute I got it. I just thought, okay, I've got to do something with it. And so, of course, when this sew along came, it was perfect time. So 6876 is the one I'm doing today. And then the fabric that we're going to work on is 6877. It's a blue silk. It's a solid blue, just a beautiful, beautiful piece of fabric. And so let me just tell you a few little things about all of this. We are sewing for Toys for Tots. So there is on the, I sent out an email and it had a link, but if you didn't get the email, if you're not on our email list, you can go to fit2stitch.com. Fit2Stitch is a tax deductible, it's a nonprofit. So if you donate to Toys for Tots, you can take the write-off. It doesn't matter if your write-off is Toys for Tots or Fit2Stitch. It doesn't make any difference. But our tax deduction number is there. And also there's the Toys for, under donations, there's several tabs. I think it's patterns, DVDs, whatever. But under donations, if you go under donations and go view all and scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see a Toys for Tots. And that's what you want to give for all of your donations to go for Toys for Tots. So let me just say, and I've been asked this question, so I'm going to address it. People say, well, oh, there's a Visa charge, a Visa percent that Visa charges us. We pay that. We still give 100%. If you donate $20, we give $20. We don't give, $18. We don't take a percent of that MasterCard out. So we kind of lose on this. But that's just our part, that's okay. 100% of what you give goes right to Toys for Tots. Okay, just want to make sure you understand that. And I've had a couple questions on that. So the goal is to just have some fun. Your job is to ask questions when you have them. And so really this is a blouse. The base of this blouse is pattern 600. So whatever changes you've made to 600, you can do to this also. It's the same sleeve as 600. All of those things are the same. 600 is being classic blouse for those of you who have not watched before, okay? And we are just going to do a really fun, beautiful job. So typically I'll do the guide sheet pages, and I have done the guide sheet pages, but we're going to kind of condense them a little bit because I always want to, or I feel like I'm always considerate of your time and what you want to watch and what you need to watch. And when we've done webcasts before, we've set in sleeves, we've done a lot of, we've sewn darts, we know how to do all that. And so, for instance, I'm going to give you an example as we start, and if we go into the first column, we'll pull up that very first column that we start with, and what you can see is we're on the front of the garment. Now this particular pattern the front is all one. That's a sleeve. That's a sleeve. But the front of the garment itself, I'm just going to hold it up here, is cut as one because it's asymmetric. And so this is what the front of the garment is going to look like. And in doing that, on that first column, you see that you've got a couple items that you're doing. You're stitching the darts. I've done that. You've seen me stitch. I bet if I added them up, 100 darts, at least 100 darts. So I know you know that I know how to do them, and I know you know that you can watch that and know how to do it. So we stitched the darts, and then we did a little bit of serging. So we serged the neck edge, we serged the back, we serged the little pieces that are going on. So we actually, what we did is we finished column number 1, I guess is what I'm going to say to you. And we're going to go right ahead and go to column number 2. That's what we're going to focus on. And column number 2, if you notice, it's doing that back little piece. And that's where we're going to go right now, is doing that back little piece. It's a simple little thing to do. We're doing a back slit. I'm going to kind of show you in this one because it's light and you can see it. We're doing a back slit here that's right in the seam. And then, you know, there's other things you could do. You could do an invisible zipper. Lots of things you could do, but because a back slit is probably one of the easiest things to do, that's why I decided to use it in this particular case. So we're going to go to, we're on the back. If you're following it with your own guide sheets, we're going to go to the back page, the second page, and we're going to start at the top there. So remember, I've serged my pieces and I've done all that, so we're going to start here. In this particular case, I've got my back is open, and to each piece, I'm going to sew the little insert into. So this is my little piece here, and I'm going to stitch it onto the back. And I have serged one side, and I have serged one end, and those are not the sides that I'm going to sew in. I'm going to put in this non-serged side in both cases. And here we go. Isn't this cool? Now there's a dot on that back pattern, and that dot just means where you sew down to. There's nothing wonderful, there's nothing critical about the back dot. All it just means is so that you have a place to stitch to. My piece, because it's predetermined for you how long that piece is, that's going to kind of tell you how far down to sew. So you just want to sew about the same place on both sides. And if anybody doesn't understand, this is a good time to ask what we're doing, okay? All right, and we'll always stop and answer your questions. So if you have any questions, just let us know. And I think there's one waiting. Hang on, let me get this started. Does the original Balenciaga have a back slit? It does. I did this like the original Balenciaga. I did not change it. Even though, honestly, there are some things I probably would have changed. But, you know, typically if I'm bringing you a designer, you guys, I'm going to bring it to you like it is. Because otherwise, I don't want to name it after somebody that I should be naming it after me if I'm not, you know what I mean. So yes, it had a back slit. Okay, so now I've got these two backs. The silk that I'm using, this is, again, the fabric is number 6877. It's really a beautiful piece of fabric. So I'm going to open up these two pieces like this, okay? And I can see where I stopped stitching. This is kind of like an invisible zipper. I can see where I stopped stitching, and that's where I'm going to start stitching so that it looks just continuous. And when you start stitching at the same place that you stopped stitching, it'll look continuous all the way down. So the top part is stitched, the two pieces are stitched in, but then as you put those together, where they stopped stitching or a little above, it doesn't have to be exact, I can create this center back seam. And then I'm just going to press it all open. And this is easier to do this now because your back is nice and flat. So we're in the middle of this section. And we're stitching the center back seam, and then we'll press. You know, there's a blue of this, and there's the color I'm sewing with. We're going to go to the ironing board, and let's press open this center back seam. There's the blue, and then there's the red. And I thought the blue would be easier to see, but I'm almost changing my mind, thinking the red might have been easier to see. But anyway, we'll make it clear for you so that you understand it. Okay, so we're going to open that up, and we're going to press. And what I'm looking to press is these little pieces here that I've sewn on. I'm actually got the wrong side up, just FYI. And these little pieces are coming all the way around. So they're going to, everything's going to press nice and flat. And that seam, like I said, is just going to look continuous. Balenciaga, if you ever want to really see them in full force, I don't know, you know, is to go to one of their stores. Their stores have they have a very young edge to them, typically right now, very contemporary, very pricey. Can I say that? They're very pricey. And of course, everybody's gone into shoes lately. I don't know what the deal is with shoes. They're really, you know, it seems like every designer, maybe it's just an add-on where designers can make more money. Everybody's doing shoes, and if you look at Balenciaga, their shoes are, you know, roughly in the thousands. They're very expensive. All right, so you can, I know you can't necessarily see, but that just looks beautifully continuous, and I'm going to top stitch it here in a minute, so when I do that, you can see it. And it just presses nice and flat. And again, all you have to do is just, you know, you want it to be the same width, and you want the same, you know, just don't overlap or anything. I don't know what I got caught there. Let me just kind of clip that a little bit. At the very beginning, it's not going to make a difference. It's going to be in the seam allowance, but it still bugs me that it's not laying flat. Okay, there we go. Much better. And so I'm just going to put a pin here to hold this facing back, and we're not going to leave this facing to chance. We're going to go ahead and come in and stitch it down so that it holds it open. Okay, and I'm just going to hold this out so that you can see it before I top stitch it. And so there you have it. Pardon? Yeah. So you can see that's where I stopped stitching the two pieces, and then I just started all the way down. And I'll lay it down here and just let the camera pick it up, so you can see that there's no interruption between this part seaming and that part. And it's not hard. Again, it just takes a little bit of patience to where you are the same width from the seam allowance, and you know, you can even overstitch it a little bit. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stitch a little V so that it holds these facing pieces inside. Typically they're stitched down. Okay, so let's do that. And this can be put, you know, gosh, you can put this a lot of places. Anytime you want a little V, there's a lot of places you can put this, and it's nice. I'm going to use my foot to help me keep this stitching right here straight. So I'm going to just, you know, use the edge of my foot, and then I'm just going to go gradual, gradual, gradual. It'll go down to a point. And then peek underneath and make sure that's all laying flat. It is. Stitch right to the center. You can't do this, well, you can do it, I guess, but it's much easier to do this when you have a center back seam. All right, and let's answer any questions. Is the blue silk a knit or a woven? It's a knit. It is a knit, but you can do, remember, you can do a woven blouse in a knit. You can't do a knit blouse in a woven, but I can do a woven blouse in a knit. The one I have on is a knit. It's a wool blend knit. I just, like I said, I love it. I love it on. I loved sewing with it. That's my criteria of a beautiful fabric, is how well it sews. Okay, was the original blouse a knit or a woven? A woven. It has to be, mean, it can't, in some regards, even if you use a woven, a knit, as I'm doing, you're not going to use a knit in the typical fashion that we think of as a knit. For instance, there's no negative ease. You know, if I stand up and you look at my, too many wires and too many cords, and I didn't have a place to put this, and so I just stuck it. It's probably not the best place in the world, but I'm going to take it off for a minute just because I want you to be able to see my neckline. So in this particular case, when you want the ease of a blouse, even though it's a knit, you still want the ease that you have in a normal blouse. So I'm going to go put this back on, and there's just not a good place to put this microphone with this blouse. This is not a good PBS blouse or a good sew-along blouse because I don't have anywhere to put my microphone. All right, I'm going to be a little more careful with my cord because I'm stepping on it. Okay, other than that, are we good? We'll keep going. So I've sewed the V, and that V is beautifully done. I'm just going to press it just to make sure it's nice and, clip threads and all that kind of stuff. Everything can be clipped away at this point. And it's pretty. Okay. Okay, so the directions tell us to put that aside. Very nice. And we're going to go to the front. And the front section here, like I said, those are my sleeves. My front section here. I did my darts, and you're supposed to serge. Sorry, you guys are supposed to serge this edge right here, and I did that. And you're supposed to fold it to the inside. Now, the pattern has a line where you're supposed to fold it. This side is just really easy to duplicate because it creates an armhole. So you know exactly where to fold that. This up here is a little more, you'd have to kind of follow the pattern. So what I did is I just put a clip that was right at the fold line so that I knew exactly how far it folded back, and I folded it back. You don't press it, you don't stitch it down, you don't do anything. You're just going to fold it, and you're going to put a couple pins, and what will hold it in place is the armhole, or the side of the armhole. You can base that if you want. I'm just going to put a couple pins in here to hold it. Okay, and this little curve here, you're going to see duplicates itself when it gets folded back. So you're going to see that. I don't have any more pins, so that's okay. All right, and so there we have it. This is the inside. And you can see there's the darts that I sewed, and this gets folded, and the fold goes to the inside. Okay, so we're going to go to the next column. And I'm going to make 3 little pleats. And these little pleats, you guys, are not, it doesn't just, the size of them is on the pattern. They're small. But where they are is just not going to make that much difference. You're just giving the collar, what you're doing is kind of creating this, little softness that goes across the front. So they are marked on the pattern. You can duplicate that, but what I have found in making the blouse several times, it's kind of an error factor. You don't really need to make them exact, and they don't really need to be, as long as you have folded back the right amount, that's really all you need to worry about. Okay, and these folds, when you're doing these folds, the folds should go, let's see, the little fold should go toward center front, I think it is. No, toward the side seam, sorry, just the opposite. Yeah, they go toward the side seam. And so you're going to catch that, the little part that you folded back, you're going to catch that in one of these little pleats. Okay, so 3 little pleats, put the pins in there, and you're good to go. That's it. Okay, the next section is, we're going to leave that alone. we're going to go over to this little armhole side, this little side that creates the armhole. And you'll kind of notice, hey, something's missing on here. And what's missing is there's a yoke piece. And that yoke piece you're cutting out. You've cut it out already. Okay, so here's the little pleats that I did. And that's what it looks like. Over here, right here where this fold is we're going to add a yoke to that. And I've got a yoke right here, and if you look at it, you can kind of see the way the pieces go. And the longer edge, it's got a notch on it, is where it's going to sew to the blouse. And what you're going to do is you're going to sew right sides together. So you're going to take this side and go this way with it. And that drawing there is very good. If you just look at that drawing, it's very, very good, because the two wrong sides are going to come up together, and all you're doing is you're putting the fold of the pattern in between the two yokes. And you're only going to sew to the notch with the blouse in there. And then once you get to that notch, you're going to come off and just sew the two yokes together. The blouse is only in between the two yokes until the notch. Now again, that does not have to be exact. That, you know, there's error factor in there also. So I'm going to sew it, and then I'm going to show it to you. And you can sew it on a sewing machine, or you can sew it on your serger. It doesn't make a difference. I have a tendency, when I'm dealing with it being somewhat exact, I sew it on my sewing machine first. Yeah, let's answer the questions. Hang on just one second. Okay, so let me just show you. There it is. And so when you put it up like this, you'll see it's as if there were a yoke with a hole in it, which is exactly what it is. Is a blue silk on the fabric you're wearing one-way stretch or two-way stretch? The silk fabric here, I would say it's a two-way. It's more one way than the other. It's on the website. If you just look at the fabric and go to the website, it says the description of the fabric. I don't remember off the top of my head, to be honest. How many yards for that blouse? Size 12 to 14. That's on the website also. If you just go to 723 to the pattern, you can just click the back and it will tell you for the different sizes how many yards to get. Off the top of my head, you guys, I don't remember this stuff. You guys think I'm way smarter than I am. Any problem with the bra straps showing on the front opening? I purposely wore it so you could kind of see. I've had that question before. I just go to a bra that I know that I have that has thinner straps that are a little wider. And you can see that, you can see in my moving and stuff today if you can see it and if that bothers you, or if, you know. Okay, so that's where I just sewed. And when I pull this up, you can see now that this yoke is attached to the front. Okay, and that's what's going to create that beautiful hole. And it's just done really pretty. And I love how it was done. It's really nice. And the cool thing is I can say all this because I just copied it. I actually didn't create it. I just copied it. And I'm just going to give that a little press. Because you have that whole entire seam is enclosed, there's really no reason, bless you, there's really no reason to serge in there. Serging will just really add bulk. So I think that's why I don't serge. I just run, you know, it doesn't show, it's completely encased inside. So it's not anything that we really have to worry about showing. And I'm going to put a pin there just to hold the corner in place so that we can see what we just did. Okay, we just added that yoke on and it's just pretty. Just pretty. Okay? All right, are we good with that? Okay, let's go to the next picture. And we're going to put this whole thing aside for a little bit. And where we're seeing is we're seeing there's 3 collar pieces, and the collar pieces are 4, 5, and 6. And I think one thing that might help you, and I did this purposely, you know, just trying to simplify it for you, is the collar pieces are different lengths. And so here I'm going to give you a little help here. The 4 is the longest, then 5, then 6. 6 is the shortest. 4, 5, 6. So they got shorter as the numbers went up. I guess I should have reversed it to make it really easy. But anyway, so you're going to take each of those collar pieces, and I went ahead and did that. I just pressed under the seam allowance. On each piece, you're just going to lay it flat. And if you're dealing with a fabric like mine, where it's hard to tell which side is which, that you don't even have to mark them anymore because I've got it all turned in and I've got it all turned right. And I think that really helped me, at least in preparation. I didn't have to worry about which side was up. Okay, so we've pressed under, and we're going to go to that 3rd column now, and we're at the top of that 3rd column. And this is probably the part that I want to do the whole sew along for, okay? It's not difficult at all. It's just you definitely have to read because, well, I just think you have to do both. I spend a lot of time on these guide sheets, you guys, and the whole reason of having the text there and not just the photos is we're not IKEA. Okay, there's times I've taken those directions at IKEA and I've thrown them out the window. If you look really, really carefully for a really, really long time, you'll figure it out. But who wants to spend all that time examining it? Okay, so we write it out. So if you notice, it says, in this order, layer the following 4 pieces. First, with right side up, 4. Now remember, 4 was the longer one. So with right side up, so you only have one choice, 4 is in my hand. Okay, the next, on top of 4, place the front. And so this is the front, and it tells you where. On top of 4. And it goes into more detail, but I'm just trying to hit the highlights, okay? Now remember, the whole reason I brought this kind of creamy one here is so that you could kind of understand. I think it's helpful to understand that this collar is coming out of these pleats. Okay, and so there's a short one back here, but there's a longer one back here, but there's an upper and under. That's why we've got so many collar pieces here. So we're going to lay 4 down. We did that. We laid 1 on top. Then the next section says the 3rd layer. Let's see. Please, leaving up, I want to read this because I want you to read it as you go. Leaving collar piece, now there's collar piece. Let's see, 3rd layer on top of 1 is right outside collar number 6. So that's this little baby piece. And we're going to take 6 and we're going to put that together. Right outside collar, right side down against the front. So this is going to go like right side down. And they're extended out a seam allowance width. And then we put the back on top. And the back that we put on top is right sides together. And we align the edge. Okay, so this goes here. This goes here. And this goes here. Now when you align that last piece, that shoulder seam, go to the outside, the shoulder edge, where the sleeve sews in, and align those, and then you'll know where the back piece, number 2, stops. Okay, there's my little sandwich. I've got a little sandwich here, and it's looking really good. I don't want to sew this because there's only one opportunity to sew it until you guys get it. Is everybody okay? Would I interface the collar if the fabric is lighter in weight? Yes. Yeah, you don't want a floppy collar, but the collar is shaped well. I'm going to tell you, I took a lot of time making sure the collar was shaped well so that it doesn't, you know, I think it fits very nicely. So, but however, if you want your, like my collar is like right equal to my neck. It's like a 1-to-1. If you want it a little looser, then you'd want to fuse it or interface it so that it stands up a little bit, okay? All right, so are we okay with this? I'm going to sew it. Now this is going to be really cool when I sew it, you guys. And I'm sure you're sewing too, right? We're all together sewing. Here we are together. And you're sewing a 3/8. And again, you could do this on the serger if you want. I'm going to do it on the sewing machine first because I can sew. I'm sewing through the pleats. I'm sewing through all of that. And I can make sure it's all right first. Okay, I'm going to take my pins out and we're going to look and see what we did. Okay, so this piece is the back. It goes to the back. This piece right here, this was number 4. This was the little piece, 6, is going to go on top of it. And you're going to top stitch that down, but just a little bit later, not just yet. Here's the front, and here's the front collar peeking out of there. Isn't that beautiful? It's amazing. Okay, so those are my 4 layers. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop there and I'm going to go to the other side because I've got 2 shoulder seams. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch this now to the yoke. Now that's not difficult at all to do. It's a 1-to-1. It's pretty easy. Just make sure you have right sides together. And sew the shoulder seam of the yoke to shoulder seam of the number 2, the back. And I am going to serge that. So we're going to go to the serger here for just a minute. And while I'm here, since I did everything right on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and serge that seam. That seam is not finished by anything else. It's not, it's going to be exposed. So I'm going to go ahead and serge that. Okay, now you realize, guys, we're almost done. So, I mean, the blouse, it's just not hard. It's just got a little tricky place, a couple tricky places there. Okay, let's inside this out so I can see what we've created here. I probably should just put it on a hanger so that you can see what's going on. Let me steal this hanger here because I want to show you the process. Because sometimes I had an email from a gal and she was right. She just couldn't figure out that she was right because she just, it's a different blouse. Okay, remember your side seams are open right now too. I hope I didn't twist this when I serged that seam. Okay, so here we go. I want to put this on so you can kind of understand where we're at right now. Because we're going to do just a couple more steps and we're going to be done. Okay, so the back, if you look at the back, we've got the back slit. No big deal. I'm going to go ahead and put a little pin back here just so that the front kind of pulls the front up. So it's not just really crazy wide. Okay, and I'm going to clip this right here. Okay, so here's our collar. This little piece here, that was piece number 6. Remember, they got smaller as the number got bigger. So the little tiny piece, and it's going to literally top stitch right along back in here. The collar's going to go over it. Okay, and then here's the little piece. You can see that here's my pleats. There's my yoke. There's my opening. And here's the collar. It's going to come around and it's going to sew to this back piece. But what's going to finish it is the other piece that's going to come in and finish off this edge. And that's it. Once we finish off that edge, you can see that they're going to meet in the back. and they're going to top stitch down. We're going to edge stitch that collar in place. All right, so I want to finish it, but I want you to be really clear as to where we're going to do it because we can't go backwards. Isn't that beautiful though? It just drapes beautiful. It's just a beautiful blouse. Okay, so I just want to put on the hanger and see that. Any questions that I can answer for you? And let's go ahead. And now when I take this last piece, what I'm going to do is remember that the raw edge is already turned up. So I'm going to start, and this particular piece, and it shows you in this guide, this next part here, it just goes on top of the whole thing, right sides together. So we're going to start at piece number 6 in the back. Doesn't really matter where you start. And then we're going to do 2 ends. And in one end, we're going to put elastic, the little elastic hoops. If you're not an elastic hoop fan, you know, you can go to the next plan. You could put Velcro back there if you wanted to. Okay, so these edges that are not turned under, the turned under edges, and you can see those are just going to be perfectly the same size, match everything. And we're going to sew right along there. Okay, everybody with me? If you do not want the fabric around the neck, what else could you do? Well, that's the style of the blouse. I don't know. I mean, you could put elastic, you know, just put an elastic band around your neck as opposed to fabric. But I mean, I probably, so off the top of my head, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't want the band around your neck, I don't know that I would make the blouse. I think for me, the beauty is the band around the neck. It's what supports the rest of the blouse. You can't have that support without that band. Now, you could make it thinner. You could make it elastic. You could, you know, do different things like that. Does the fabric need to be two-way stretched because of the shape of the collar? No, you guys, I did this beautifully. This pattern is a woven. It's curved. Here, if you look at the shape of these pieces, they're very curved. There's a lot of fit in these collar pieces. So necks don't change. You guys will be fine. Unless you just don't like it, then that's a different issue. But you're going to be fine just the way it is. You got to give me a little bit of credit on this now. Okay? All right, so I'm going to do right sides together, and I'm sewing those together. And again, there's no reason to serge this because it's going to be completely encased, and there's no reason to add that extra bulk in here. Now, when I'm coming past the shoulder seam, remember that the shoulder seam was what I had sewn. Those collar pieces were extended just a little bit, and the seam allowance is hung out, so there'll be a little bit of bulk when you go past there. But you just want to get the 2 layers of the collar. You don't want to get any of the blouse or the back, which was sitting there, and then just keep going around. I love this blouse, you guys. Like, it's so high-end. It's so ridiculously expensive. And I think as sewers, it's the best way to convert other people to sewing is to make stuff like this. Okay. So I've just sewn that, and now what I'm going to do is just turn it to the inside. And once I do that, my 2 pressed edges that were pressed under are going to come together. And here, I'll show you on the end there. See that? So when you press that, you want to be careful in the pressing so that those 2 edges come together, and you can see it. It just forms a beautiful shape. The shaping is all done for you. It's not like you're going to wrestle with the shape of it. It's just gorgeous. Okay, I'm going to do the back. I'm just going to do that back, and when you do the back seam, on one side, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, I gave you directions as to which side to put elastic and which side to put buttons. It doesn't really matter as long as you have elastic on one side and buttons on the other side. But I did want to spend a minute just talking about these little elastic loops and how to get them and what to do, you know, the easiest way to do them. So I'm going to take a little 1/4 inch elastic, and I'm just going to, this is actually the 2-inch elastic that we have. I'm just going to cut a little thin section off. I'm not even going to compromise the elastic itself. And when you do that, just stretch. And when you stretch it, if you've cut or crossed the elastic, it will stick out. Okay, so see there how I've got that great little elastic? And this I did about, let's see, this is about 4 inches. And then just cut that in half. So give yourself about a 2-inch piece. And then that will make your 2 little loops. So I'm going to take it, and if you make the loop and then cross the bottom, and then what you want to do, like for instance, I'm going to sew this end right now, put this inside and put the crossed bottom right at the 3/8 inch seam allowance mark. Okay, so I'm going to put one right there, and I'm going to put the other one. Now you can buy elastic loop stuff. You don't have to make these. I just always think, gosh, I've got it sitting there, why not just make them? But if you cross the bottom and then stitch through it, you have these really nice little loops, and they're right in the seam itself. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to lay this on top of it, and I'm going to sew it on the sewing machine. And I sew through my pins because my pins are holding my little loops in place. And now keep in mind, even if I'm a little bit low or high, I'm still going to get my loops. And the seam that I'm doing is the end. It's not that long. If I completely annihilate, fold here, take your pins out. If I completely annihilate, then I can always take the thread out and do it again. Just fold, fold, and then turn to the outside. And then what I've got, as you can see, is those nice 2 little loops. One looks better than the other, but you know, you can just do that until you're satisfied with the way they look. And they're just not hard at all to do. And you want to enclose them right into the seam line. Okay, now notice that when I start to press this, or when I start to turn it under, it's all going to turn in together. Now, I'm putting a pin here just for the minute, because what this is going to do now, and here, let me do the other end. Now, this other end is going to have buttons on it. So I've got the 2 ends of the collar. One end has loops, one end has buttons. So I'm doing the same thing, I'm just on the other end. This time I don't have to deal with loops though. And again, I'm going to fold, fold, and take it to the inside. All right, so there's a couple things now we're going to do to finish this collar up. And it's amazing how beautiful it just falls together. You've done all the hard work. This is just the fun stuff. So again, I'm going to put a pin in there just to kind of hold it in place. Okay, so on this side, you've got 2 sides. I'm going to open up the back now. On this side, the back is literally going to go inside that section. So just open it up in 3/8 seam allowance. You're going to insert the back slit. And you're going to pin, because you're going to just literally top stitch this, edge stitch I should call it. You're going to edge stitch this in place onto the back. You're going to stitch right there. Okay, and that finishes that completely. You'll put your buttons right there. And then this side is going to come over, and on this, by the loops, you'll put in the other back. So this portion of the collar goes center back to center back. Okay, and again, it's just push it up there, seam allowance amount, and then this incorporates the yoke. And I'm going to put the yoke on there and just put a couple pins in place. So now what you'll notice is the middle of the collar goes airborne. There's nothing that the middle of the collar that goes into the middle of the collar. And I'll put it back on this hanger so you can I think you can see it best when it's on this hanger. Okay, So here we have it. This back portion is stitched down to itself. That pin looks like it's pulling a little bit, so I'm going to open that up and put it back. Okay. This side, and these are where the two edges are going to come together. You can see there's my loop, and here it comes down. And that comes around, and it includes this, it opens up and includes this yoke portion. And then this part right here just is airborne. But it's got the two sides sewn up, so it's going to sew to itself. And I'm just going to start stitching here. I'm going to sew this all the way around to there, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to top stitch this in place. And that's it. Is that so cool? Look at that. It's beautiful. Then we put in your sleeves and you go from there. Sleeves we're not going to do because y'all know how to do sleeves. I do want to show you one thing on the sleeves. But it's just really, really pretty. And again, I really wanted to do this blouse because I felt like it was so high-end as far as the sewing goes. Look at that, it's beautiful. You want that around your neck? Why would you not want that around your neck? All right, very pretty. Okay, now, I'm not going to necessarily put those sleeves in. I did want to show you one thing, though, on the elastic and around the sleeves. And yes, the sleeves were original to the Balenciaga. Usually Balenciaga will do some kind of fabulous sleeve. Okay, so right at toward the bottom of the sleeve, there's a elastic. And this is a very simple process that you're going to do. You don't need casing. My sleeve right here, on this particular size I'm doing, is measuring 14. So I took my elastic, and I did my elastic at 7. So what I wanted it to be was 2 to 1. I felt like 1.5 to 1, which is often what elastic is. I just felt like it was not enough for what I wanted. So I'm going to just show you how to do this without a casing. It's very simple to do. I'm going to anchor. I put a pin on one side, and I'm going to put a pin on this side. Put your needle down, and then just pull. And come all the way over to the other side, and then just sew. Just have to put a hand back here, and you want to make sure that your machine is pressing forward. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pull this, and you can see that I'm just sewing one straight stitch. I'm at 3.5 is my stitch length. I'm going to take my pin away, and I'm going to keep going. All right, and once you do that, let me show you from here. That's your elastic. And you can see it's really evenly distributed, and it's really pretty. And then you set the sleeve in as normal. Like I said, that's not what we need to do. We're not worried about that. Do the side seam, and then hem the bottom. And we have sleeves. All right? Okay, so we're good. Let's answer any questions you have and see if you can feel comfortable that you can do this. You know, the goal after these sew-alongs is always, hey, I can do that. That's the goal. All right, so we'll see if you have any questions. Love the blouse. Love the blouse. This is, again, for the kids, all for Toys for Tots. What changes do I make for a one-way stretch knit? So let me go over this just so you understand here. Because the same questions keep coming up, so I must not be answering them correctly. The blouse is made for a woven. When you are making a woven blouse into a knit, using a knit, in this particular case, I guess it changes. I'm still using the blouse sleeve. I'm not wanting the properties of a knit. I'm only using a knit because it's beautiful. So you don't make any changes. You make the blouse exactly like it is. You can't tell by looking at the fabric whether it's a knit or woven anyway. So I could have made these sleeves like a knit sleeve, but then they would be really tight and they contradict the look of the blouse. It's not the look of the blouse. So it doesn't matter if you're using a one-way knit or a two-way knit, you don't make any changes. It's a woven blouse. In this particular case, does that make sense? I'm hopeful that makes sense to y'all. If not, keep asking and we'll keep answering until it makes sense. When you're stitching the ends of the collar, are you stitching with the turn under, open and flat? The turn is flat. Yeah, you want to pull the seam allowance down and stitch it as if it was unpressed, and then you've pressed it so it will go back into place. But it doesn't make that much difference as long as you understand the base. There's little incidences you do from one garment to another. These are your personal things. It doesn't make any difference. The insert back.
This was a continuation of the question.
Then insert back and turn again. Again, it doesn't make a difference as long as you know it's in the directions as to how to do it, how we think, but how you decide to do it ultimately, it doesn't make a difference. All right. For the sleeveless version, did you cut the pattern using the sleeveless armhole template, or did you simply follow the pattern as is? No, whenever I'm going to do a sleeveless, I'm always going to follow the sleeveless template. Otherwise, your armhole will be too large. Your blouse armhole is larger than your sleeveless. Mine is. I shouldn't say yours is, because maybe yours isn't. But my sleeveless armhole template is smaller than my blouse. So when I'm going to do a sleeveless garment, and I know it's going to be sleeveless, I'm going to use my template and use my sleeveless template. Okay? So the cuff edge is asymmetrical. It is. There's no cuff. Cuff would be really a little bit confusing. It is just, it's all one piece, and it's higher in the front and it's lower in the back. So it's just all one piece, and cuff typically by definition is a separate piece that's stitched on, and that's not the case in this. It's just all one. Okay? It's made to look like it because the elastic has a tendency to make it look like it's separate, but it's not. Okay? Do you have time for a rounded back question? Sure. The back of this, so sometimes you guys, again, when I look for patterns that are wonderful, I would think to myself, gee, the ladies who have to make this adjustment, would this be too hard for that? This would be really easy for any of that. Rounded back. Sorry, you guys. Hold on. If you had to do a rounded back adjustment for it's 600, that's why I said to you earlier, 600 is the base. 600 is the base of this blouse. This is 600, except we've cut, sliced, diced, and added a few more parts. So this is 600. If you have to do a rounded back for 600, you'll do a rounded back for this because the back is 600. Okay? So that's a very good question. Or I don't know if I asked you, if that was the rounded back question you wanted to ask me, but yes, I have time for a rounded back. Can you line the sleeve edge back up to the elastic? Could you line the sleeve edge back up to the elastic? Could you line the sleeve edge? I don't know that question, you guys. If you'll just ask again, rather than me taking 20 minutes to figure out what you're asking, just maybe ask again so I can know what you're wanting. But I love the sleeve. I love the gathers in this fabric. And this is a great way to know whether the fabric will drape well. It's when you just do a little piece like this and it just hangs so pretty. Okay? Okay. Anything else? Remember, this is all about the kids, you guys. Be generous, all right? Be generous. Or don't. But no, be generous. It's amazing how far, think about $5. $5 will buy a toy. And typically every year, you guys, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if we ever tell you or not. Like last year we gave $2,000. $2,000. That's a lot of toys. So because of that, I think we're always getting these emails now from, Toys for Tots, the Marine, because they want that. They need that. So we want to at least hit what we hit last year. Okay, back adjustment. Are both legs of the slash opened and fabric added as if it was a horizontal back adjustment? Are both legs of the slash opened and fabric added as if it was a horizontal waist dart? both curving away from each other at center back. Start with 1 inch at center back. Sure. Yes. Yes. I don't have a problem with that. 1 inch is a little aggressive. I wouldn't do more than 3/4 of an inch. But I think for most of you who are doing rounded back, you're doing it too low. It needs to be about 3 or 4 inches below center back. That's where it should start. It should taper to nothing at the armhole. It's horizontal, slash, and open. Okay? But the top, if you make a muslin, the top will tell you how much you need. Other than that, you're kind of speculating. I've made 195 out of 2-way stretch knit. It turned out perfect. What changes do I make when using a 1-way stretch knit? None. None. That's a depth. When you're making, the difference between 1-way and 2-way stretch knits, you guys, are not depth typically, they're circumference. So that's why it's important to always separate out length, circumference, and depth, because you're asking a depth question, but you're really asking a circumference question, but you think it has a depth answer, if that makes sense. Okay? So when the sleeve dangles, can you cover the elastic with same fabric back up to the elastic?
You said elastic twice.
Oh, so when the sleeve dangles, can you cover the elastic? So you guys, these are sewing questions. When they're sewing questions, you can do anything you want. I don't, you know, the patterns are what I concern myself with the most. Sorry, my throat is going crazy. Patterns are, I think, the most misunderstanding. And so there's times where I feel like when it comes to patterns, we need to all be cohesive. But when it comes to styling and when it comes to sewing, you guys, there's a lot of methods out there. And the methods that you use, it doesn't matter to me. The methods I use, it just doesn't matter. The methods I use are in the guide sheet. So I put them in the guide sheet and I get them from the factories that I deal with. But as far as how you do something or can you do it, of course, you can do whatever you want. You know, as long as you like it and you're going to wear it, it's your garment. So I think that's kind of where my attitude is on that. Hopefully that helps you clarify when you should go ahead. Sometimes I think as sewers, though, we sew solo, and it's nice to have an opinion. I think that's what the store's for. What if you made a facing up to the elastic and then put the elastic in? Guys, you're obsessing over, I mean, you know, not obsessing, that's not fair. You're just, you know, kind of stuck on, you're too deep in thought on that. You can do whatever you want. Or maybe you were typing and not listening, but anyway, you can do whatever you want with that. All right? All right, so remember a couple things. The Balenciaga's blouse 723 is the pattern we did today. The fabric number is the blue that I sewed with is 6877. 6876 is the floral that I have on. Toys for Tots donation are on, oh, you know what I was going to tell you? I did forget this. I have not ordered the scissors from Kai. And there is a $120 scissor pack that is a really good deal. $120, that's free shipping. So I'm just going to leave that open until tomorrow. I'm going to send out an email because we did really good, but we just need a few more and we're going to make our goal. We need a good hit, okay? So I'm going to leave that scissor deal out till tomorrow. I'll send out an email on it. But if you're not on our email list, I wanted you to hear about that. But the Toys for Tots is under donations, but so are the scissors. You'll see the scissors right by the Toys for Tots, okay? But other than that, you guys, let's see, this Thursday we have a Q&A. So this Thursday, if you have any Q&As on, you know, anything, just send them to me before Thursday, not Thursday, okay? You guys, I prepare for this before, an hour before. So if you'll send them ahead of time, we can take care of them though and help you with them. The base is 600. Classic blouse is the base for 723 Balenciaga's blouse. It's a woven blouse. For all of our woven blouses, 600 is the base. Okay? All right, the goal is we'll see you Thursday night. But you guys, happy holidays. We're right in the middle of Hanukkah. Hanukkah is going strong. For those of you, hope you're getting a present every day. It doesn't need to be a material present. Like my present today, I got this beautiful weather. It's gorgeous outside. It's so pretty. And I've been sick, and it feels so nice to see sunshine. So, all right, you all. Happy holidays. We love you, and thanks for being here. Bye.